We're going to start talking about Chapter 3, American Imperialism today for Mr. Smock's class. First thing up, make sure that you know your vocab and how these vocab terms interact with each other, as their understanding will help you have a deeper understanding in the chapter and of the material and how it relates to itself. Our first lesson for the day is kind of a brief history of what imperialism is and what it's meant to be on the world scale. So the first thing, understand that by definition, imperialism is the control by powerful nations over less advanced or less civilized areas. Those areas, those can be whole countries, those can be parts of countries, a city, a resource, an island of a country. It's an area that one powerful nation, a more powerful nation, is exerting control over. And one way that the nation can exert powers through economic force, coming in and taking over the market and having an economic dependence upon the more powerful nation is a way that imperialism works. A strong government, strong and stable government, where a government that's longstanding, that has withstood the test of time, comes in and just exerts and says, you are now a part of us, and that area or that country is not strong enough to resist that takeover. And then lastly, and probably most popularly through imperialism, is the considerable military strength. Conquering. It's been a part of history for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that if I have the larger army, the more numbers, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to take you over. Something to note with this chapter is that scientific technology also becomes a part of imperialism and military strength. Because if I have a bolt-action rifle that I can fire accurately and repeatedly versus your stick with a rock tied to it, then I have the considerable military strength, the military advantage over you. Less advanced, pretty much the exact opposite of everything we just said. A primitive economy, a barter economy. We talk about market economies. We talk about a capitalist economy, a global economy. Those are all very advanced economies. It takes a long time to develop them. Whereas many of these areas we're talking about as less advanced, they are still working on the barter system or on a very small scale commune system where everybody in the community works together. They have not yet developed their natural resources. They have not gone through the industrialization process. Their government is weak. They rely very typically upon a eldest individual in the community to lead them. Could be a matriarchy where it's the oldest female. Could be a patriarchy where it's the oldest male. It could be kind of like the popular Marvel movie in Wakanda with Black Panther, where the most powerful person, the one that can withstand a fight to the death, becomes the leader. Those are not strong governments. They topple, they change very, very quickly, and they have a limited military power in numbers, in training, in technological advantage. And then one thing I just want to add in here is that we're talking about a new era, and imperialism has also been called colonialism. Colonial era is over by the time we talk about imperialism. When you talk about imperialism, you are now discussing the era after an industrial revolution, which brings me to the next point. The number one cause for every nation to turn to imperialism is the Industrial Revolution. They industrialize so they can mass produce and utilize their resources. And this is true for the U.S., this is true for European nations, it's true for just about every nation across the globe, that they have to industrialize first, then they wish to go out and find more resources and more territory, and then they try to take over more territory and more resources so that they can create more industrial product. And the number one thing that they get from this is your cheap supply of raw materials. You want to industrialize. If you're trying to create steel, you need more iron, you need more coal. And so your colonies produce those things and they ship them to you. And then you have a market for your economy. So your colony is going to buy stuff from you. They're not going to be allowed to buy stuff from other countries. They're going to buy from your economy. And so that kind of perpetuates your economy, that they are forced to buy from you. And because they're doing all of this because you are the mother country and they have to do it, you get to make a bunch of money, and that creates surplus capital. And in the global scheme, the country with the most wealth is considered to be very, very powerful, if not the most powerful. Some other things to note is that some other ideas that go into this, some secondary ideas that go into this, is the U.S. and other countries want their place in the sun. They want the rest of the world to view them favorably, to look up to them, to idolize them. And the only way you can do this is to have a strong military that everybody goes, we don't want to mess with them, a strong government that stands the test of time, and an economic system that goes across the globe. Second thing is you want to have military bases everywhere. One, you got to protect your resources. Two, if something should happen, you go to war, you need military bases to help protect not only your homeland, but also protect those colonies as well. Thirdly, these colonies provide an outlet for your surplus population. As an example, later on, I'm going to talk about Australia and Great Britain and how it was a prison colony, and that allowed their prisons to thin out by sending many of their harder criminals to Australia. Spreading your religious beliefs and spreading your culture, obviously you're going to be a part of this, because they are the idea that your culture is superior to other cultures is very centric to the idea of imperialism, that you believe that you are best, that your country is best. Very ethnocentric, but that's the way countries deem themselves. And with that, that ends lesson 1 about the brief history of imperialism.